How's it going, everybody? Today we got a SummerSlam 1997 review. Kind of wanted to know the history about SummerSlam and kind of was bored, so I just want to use the network and let's watch some SummerSlam. So there you go. So this took place in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and this was sort of a big deal because there was a wrestling tax that was in the state of New Jersey for a very long time. I guess this was the first time they were airing a show in like 8 years for the WWF, and the governor lifted the tax. And so they had a little ceremony a little bit. It wasn't in the very beginning, but it was after the first match where she was presented a WWF belt, and it was this kind of big deal, sort of, because she allowed shows in the state of New Jersey, or at least televised shows. So there you go. It's kind of a little cool moment to see 14 years later. First match was Mankind versus Triple H, or actually Hunter Hearst Helmsley. There's no mention Triple H whatsoever, no DX. Chyna was in his corner, and this was sort of the reason why there was a cage. Because, so Chyna didn't get involved, but obviously Chyna did get involved. There were times where she would crawl up to the cage and she'd put her arms through the holes and she would choke out Mankind. She threw a steel chair into the ring. Triple H went to go use it, it backfired, so Mankind hit a double arm DDT on Triple H on the steel chair, and then my least favorite part of the match was Mankind was about to get out of the ring to win the match, and his head was sticking out, just about to get out, and then Chyna runs by, slams the door right in his face, and obviously what we know with concussions these days, that was not good for Mr. Mick Foley's head. He's still paying the price for it. Good match, intense action. The match played up that these guys just really didn't like each other. There were both points in this match where Triple H and Mankind could have won the match, or should have just walked out of the cage to win the match. But they wanted to inflict more damage on him. Like there was one point where Triple H hit a suplex off the top rope on a Mick Foley, walked out, stopped, looked back around, said something, and then just pummeled it even more. And the very end of the match was Mick Foley was getting out of the ring, was about to touch the ground, but then he had a crazy look in his eye, crawled all the way up to the top rope, and did his best Superfly impression, and hit a elbow from the top of the cage, and then got out of the cage for the win. So that was that. Good match. It went 16 minutes. Held my attention with two guys that I know. And these two guys, they got a future in this business, I tell you what. Next match was Goldust against Brian Pillman. And the stipulation was that if Brian Pillman lost this match, he would have to wear a gold dress on Raw the next night. So there was kind of like a feud between Goldust and Terry Reynolds against Brian Pillman. Goldust was being Goldust, I think there was a point where he actually kissed Brian Pillman, and Brian didn't like that. The end of the match was, what the fuck do you call it? Brian Pillman was kind of like leaned through the middle rope, and Terry took the mannequin's head, because there was a mannequin that had the gold dress that Brian was going to wear. He took the head and hit him right in the head. Goldust rolled him up for the win, so Brian Pillman's going to have to wear dressed on Raw. And I'll probably have to look that up to see how Brian did that, because I'm pretty sure Brian Pillman's not going to want to wear a dress, so he's probably going to be forced to. So, next up, we have the Legion of Doom up against the Godwins. I had no idea who the Godwins are, and I realized why once they walked through the curtain, and because they're a bunch of these hillbillies that wore overalls, and, they're rednecks, and they're kind of like leftovers from the mid-90s when everything was there, gimmicks and characters galore. And Legion of Doom won with a spike pile driver for the W. Didn't watch it. Kind of knew what was going to happen. Legion of Doom was going to win. And on PwTorch, where I'm kind of reading to get this organization, it was a half a star. So obviously I didn't miss much. So the next thing, which actually was one of my favorite things in this whole show, was they had the WWE $1 million contest, or whatever you call it. There was two people in the arena. There was a kid and there was a guy. And then they called up these two guys. They called up two people so they could guess a number key, and then if that guessed the right number, and the key opened up a coffin that had $1 million in it, and they win that $1 million. So it was funny. The first time they called, Todd Pettengill called with Sonny and Sable, no answer. Then they call again, phone's disconnected. They call again, then the guy answers, and he was like, "Oh, are you watching SummerSlam right now?" "No, my cable provider doesn't have it." And so the Todd was like, "Oh, well, you need to go to a house that does SummerSlam," or something like that. So he picks it. Sonny gets the key, tries to open it, doesn't work. Then they call. Sable gets the key for that person. Open doesn't work. Kid doesn't work, and the guys doesn't work. And number 3 is my favorite number in the world because I'm an Oakland A's fan, and Eric Chavez was number 3. I like the Sandlot. Babe Ruth is number 3. So I was like, pick number 3. And obviously, you know, the one that opens up the coffin was number 3. So they should have heard me. They should have listened to pick number 3. But, you know, they're dumbasses. So next up, we had the British Bulldog up against Ken Shamrock. They fought to a double DQ. There was another stipulation in this match. There was a whole bunch of different stipulations that I wasn't even aware of in matches that I knew about. This one was that Ken Shamrock, if he lost, he would have to eat a bowl or a can of dog food. And there was a can of dog food sitting on the announcer's desk. And the announcers were JR, Vince McMahon, and Jerry the King Lawler. So, there you go. Ken Shamrock and British Bulldog fought for about 8 minutes, and they got a double DQ. Ken Shamrock took the can of dog food, hit it on the British Bulldog. Don't know how much a can of dog food really hurts, but apparently it hurts a lot. Knocked him out, and then Ken Shamrock puts him in a chokehold, kind of like a sleeper hold. And then all the agents and the referees run down, try to get Ken Shamrock off of him, and he doesn't do it. And then he kind of like goes crazy on all the guys, and Ken Shamrock did his little crazy thing, and he walks off. And Ken Shamrock's Ken Shamrock. Next up, we had the DOA. I don't remember what their name was because I didn't watch it. Against Los Boricuas. When basically those are some cholos. Savio Vega is the leader. Savio Vega was in the Nation of Domination. Then the Nation kicks him out, so then he starts up the Los Boricuas, and then they're feuding. And the DOA is basically like Aces and Eights before Aces and Eights was Aces and Eights. They're some biker group. And what happened was I just watched the end. The Aces and Eights wins, and then all of them brawl. The Nation of Domination comes out. Everyone's brawling, hating on each other, fighting, and then one of the guys gets on his motorcycle and like almost tries to run him over, and he doesn't hit anybody. And then he comes back around the ring, tries to run him over again, doesn't hit anybody, and then yeah. So next up we have Stone Cold Steve Austin up against Owen Hart, and this is the match where Owen Hart breaks Stone Cold Steve Austin's neck. And this match was for the Intercontinental Championship, but something that I did not know was that Stone Cold, if he lost, he would have to kiss Owen Hart's ass, which, obviously, if you had a broken neck, you're not going to want to kiss a man's ass because that's going to take a lot of whatever. So I don't really know what was going through the mind of Stone Cold Steve Austin, even though he's talked about it, a bunch of times on his podcast about how he was basically paralyzed for a couple seconds, and he was kind of freaking out, but he didn't really know what was going on. He talked to Earl talked to him, and then he rolled up Owen for the win. Looked like crap, but it was what it was. So the match lasted 16 minutes, but it probably was going to go maybe another 5 minutes, or was probably going to go 20 minutes. But he's a tombstone, how cold and stuff like that happens. Obviously, we didn't want it to happen because we don't want Stone Cold to be injured. This is during the meteoric rise of Stone Cold Steve Austin. The crowd was just in love with Stone Cold. He had the biggest pop of the night, because he's Stone Cold. So, good match. Obviously, could have been a lot better. The action that took place was going on before the tombstone or the pile driver happened was really good, and disappointing what happened. And luckily, Stone Cold ended up okay. Obviously, it affected his career and his life, but he didn't have to retire, or he didn't die. So there's always a plus in that. So next up we had the main event, and that was Bret Hart up against The Undertaker for the WWE Championship. And The Undertaker is the champion going into this match, and Shawn Michaels is the special guest referee. And if Bret Hart does not win, he cannot wrestle in the United States ever again. And then Shawn Michaels said that if he is impartial towards The Undertaker or screws over Bret Hart, then he is not going to be able to wrestle in the United States ever again, because he was kind of, he promised that he won't do it. So, this match went really long. It says 28 minutes, and obviously they went that long because they had to fill the time that was supposed to happen for the Stone Cold match, but that didn't happen because of the pile driver in the neck and, all that good fun stuff. So, decent match. Bret Hart's Bret Hart. He does what he does, one of the best workers of all time. And The Undertaker wasn't The Undertaker like we've kind of known and loved for the past couple of years, where you put on these great 5-star matches every WrestleMania. But Undertaker was young in the prime of his career, and he was able to do what needed to be done. It wasn't a great match, but it wasn't a bad match either. So it was kind of in the middle. It was a good match. The PwTorch gave it 3.5 stars, and that seems about right. It was obviously way too long. I would have shaved off 5-8 minutes just to condense the action. But besides that, it was fun. This was in the midst of Paul Bearer teasing that he knows who Kane is, and Kane's going to come back and haunt the Undertaker. So Paul Bearer comes down. Undertaker beats up Paul Bearer a little bit. Kane never comes out. They kind of play up if Kane's had come out. It does come out. So then the Hart Foundation comes out, just Owen Hart and Brian Pillman, and Undertaker beats them up, and then Shawn kicks him out, and Undertaker hits a choke slam on Bret Hart, so then he has the visual pin, but Shawn is kind of dealing with the Hart Foundation, making sure they're leaving, so he's kind of has his back away from him, and so then that plays up the tension between the two, so it's kind of like, who's Shawn going to side with if he doesn't like the Undertaker and he doesn't like Bret Hart, so that is what it was. And another big point in this match was Bret Hart had the sharpshooter on Undertaker, and Undertaker powered out of the sharpshooter, and apparently they said nobody's broken out of the sharpshooter ever before, so that was a real big deal that the commentators were putting over. And the end of the match was something that I played in WWE 13 when they had the Attitude Era thing back in the day. Shawn has a steel chair. Bret Hart, they're yelling at each other. Bret Hart spits in Shawn Michaels' face. Shawn cocks back's about to hit him. Bret ducks, hits Undertaker, and they do a close-up of Shawn's face, and it's disgusting. You still see the spit on his mouth and like his chest area and his neck. And then so Bret pins Undertaker, God damn, I can't talk right now. So then Shawn Michaels is kind of like reluctant. He's like, and then he goes some 1, 2, 3, and then there you go. So then Bret Hart's the heel, has a Canada flag waving, wears it on his shoulders, and then the Americans hate him, start throwing crap in the ring, not little crap, but trash. You know what I'm talking about. So then Hart Foundation comes out, they celebrate, and that was the end of the match, end of the show, and there you go. And, overall, I thought it was a pretty good show. I was able to hold my attention for a long time, and that's pretty hard to do. Didn't really skip anything. Just skipped the meaningless tag matches with the Road Warriors and the Hillbillies, and then the Aces and Eights and the Cholos. So besides those two matches, every match was entertaining, and it did its purpose. Best match for me would probably be Mankind against Hunter Hearst Helmsley. It was just entertaining, easy to understand, easy to get into, and maybe if the Bret Hart Undertaker match shaved off about 10 minutes, it probably would have been good. Or if Stone Cold didn't break his neck, that probably would have been the best match, because Stone Cold and Owen Hart, before Stone Cold's injury, he could really go, and that probably would have been the best match. It just on the thing, it just had 3 stars, and that was with the crappy finish, and he gets his neck broken. So there it is, what it is. So thank you guys very much for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, all that good fun stuff. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and comment. You guys watch SummerSlam 97. Tell me what you guys think. What you guys thought was the best match, the worst match, your favorite moment. Tell me if I should do other of these reviews. I watched SummerSlam 2002 a couple days ago, so maybe I'll think about doing a review for that one. And so we're on the road to SummerSlam. Can't wait, so we'll see you guys later.